Over 1,000 homeless people, middle-class professionals losing their jobs and then being forced to queue at soup kitchens. Some 30% of working households earning less than the amount required to meet basic needs. Old aunties and uncles cleaning tables, sweeping the streets, manual labor till the very end. They're hunchbacks, an indictment of our system. This isn't some faraway backwater, but Singapore, our home. How is it that we're also one of the world's richest cities? In this video, we'll first look at how bad inequality is, then look at the capitalist mindsets that might explain our stratified economy, and finally, we'll see what the opposition is proposing to do about it. It's already high for the developed world, but we don't know the full extent of it. When measuring it, Singapore does not include income from investments, only work. We greatly underestimate the incomes of the rich. Consider Shanmugam's recent sale of a GCB for $88 million. That phenomenal investment return would not be a data point when Singapore measures income inequality. So Singapore doesn't measure income inequality well, making it seem like we are more equal than we actually are. And it doesn't even bother measuring wealth inequality. Lama, our government probably knows every time you eat a ketupat. How come cannot measure all these things? Thankfully, others do. UBS said that from 2008 till 2023, Singapore's average wealth rose an astonishing 116%, even as our median wealth, the person in the middle, dropped 2%. Singaporeans in higher wealth brackets have been booming, while everybody else has essentially stagnated, UBS said. In The Burning Earth, historian Sunil Amrit examines the dire conditions facing gold miners in early 20th century South Africa. Mine owners wanted to offer their workers just enough air for them to breathe. Sunil writes, the mine owners of the Rand made the same calculations that ship owners had made 2 centuries earlier as they outfitted vessels to transport enslaved Africans. How much air did a person need? What was the minimum airspace they could get away with providing a human being? Sure, living conditions in Singapore are infinitely better than that. We don't control air lah, only rice. But it's a similar mindset. Exploitative, profit-maximizing capitalists consider individual workers to be factors of production, digits, not individual human lives. In other democracies, there are many forces reining them in, including the media and the opposition. Unlike the South African racists, our Singaporean leaders genuinely care for those at the bottom. But the problem is ideological inertia, neoliberal dogmas unchecked for 60 years. Make Singapore super attractive to businesses, and part of that is neutering labor unions, so you don't have pesky workers clamoring for better wages and rights. The power dynamic between company and worker here is totally out of whack, more similar to a Middle Eastern monarchy than a modern democracy. For workers in low-wage sectors, as economist Linda Lim says, their absolute and relative wages continue to be significantly lower here than in other rich countries. But in our first world country with a third world wage structure, this minimalism affects not just those at the very bottom. Construction workers travel by lorry, no need anything safer. Singaporean cleaners must afford food and shelter, no need anything more. Then the sandwich class keep tweaking their grants and handouts, keep them constantly on the edge of financial precarity, the desperation that drives the rat race. Once in a while, they must go and ask their MP for help, entrenching the dependency, the patronage. On and on and on. Every category has its own specific form of financial stress, except those at the very top. Consider the government response to the Minimum Income Standards study. This is work initiated and led by sociologists like Teo Yo Yen and Ng Kok Ho. They interviewed Singaporeans to find out about their basic needs and concluded that some 30% of working households don't earn enough to meet the minimum income. But 3 ministries rebutted them in a joint response. One of their complaints was around the definition of needs. They said small purchases of perfume and jewelry, which perhaps might help somebody present themselves better at interviews, those were not needs. Neither was a 4-day trip to Ipoh by bus. A Malaysian break once a year, not a need for Singaporeans. You know why millionaire civil servants don't consider perfume a need, right? They never take MRT lah. But this issue probably divides a lot of Singaporeans in terms of social justice. Do people at the bottom deserve more than just food and shelter? Your view on that might actually inform your vote. Hey! Sorry to interrupt the vid. JOM has been endorsed by many readers, including Yo Yen. If you believe in what we're doing, please consider a paid subscription today. It's the only way we can keep doing this. Go to jom.media/membership. Okay, back to the vid. Unlike the PAP, the opposition believes that inequality is a big problem, that the spiraling cost of living is a generational crisis. Let's just look at two broad opposition proposals: a minimum wage and greater use of our reserves for social spending. The opposition has argued that the progressive wage model isn't doing enough, and what's needed is a minimum wage. The common rebuttal to that is that it will affect businesses, it will lead to job destruction, unemployment will go up. Academic evidence on this is mixed. In some cases, a minimum wage has led to job losses, in others, not really. A lot really depends on how carefully it's calibrated and introduced. We don't quite know what will happen in the Singaporean context. Perhaps there might be some short-term pain for some businesses, but in the longer term, they'll surely adjust and succeed, as do companies in many places where wages are much higher. Joam gets into the topic a lot more in this piece. What about the greater use of our reserves? For one, nobody outside the PAP knows how big it is, so we can't accurately assess the impact. Conservative estimates put it at well above $1 trillion. More importantly, the PAP says that there's no magic rule to its current 50-50 formula. Spend half of the returns today, save half for tomorrow. The PAP says that it's saving for a rainy day, but many Singaporeans believe it's already monsoon surge number 3.6 million. Joam gets into this a lot more in this piece on CPF and reserves, including the suggestion that reserves must be hidden to deter currency speculators. Capitalists everywhere will scare you with the slippery slope argument. More redistribution, and before you know it, we'll become a welfare state where nobody has any motivation to work. But no opposition party is asking for a radical shift. For instance, the Workers' Party suggests shifting the 50-50 formula to 60-40, spending 10% more of the returns now without touching the principal amount. Other calls include lowering the GST, but perhaps funding the shortfall through small wealth taxes on the ultra-rich. These are small movements in the direction of greater equality. Don't fall for the fear-mongering or the false binaries. The opposition isn't coming to power anytime soon, but your vote will make a difference on inequality, both in terms of a signal to the PAP and if more elected opposition MPs are able to argue the case. By contrast, if you still have faith in the PAP's neoliberal philosophies and believe that society progresses when businesses are unshackled from workers' demands and that the profits should mostly flow to those at the top, then there's a reason to vote for the PAP. And make no apologies for it. It's a valid and different worldview, one shared by many millionaires and billionaires around the world who seek to move here. One favourite defense of this hierarchical system is social mobility. People like Lawrence Wong and Shanmugam, so it goes, came from humble beginnings and were able to rise to the top. That's true. If you have the right genotype and phenotype, if nature and nurture have blessed you, then yes, the Singapore system will allow you to succeed. But what about everybody else?